Good afternoon. I am Kyla Alpayan and I am the first reporter from the Group 4. To start with, let me first introduce to you the assigned tasks that I will be discussing in this moment of time. So the following are as follows. So first, the seasonal patterns of tornadoes. In this section, we will able to know when do tornadoes develop and or what seasons do tornadoes actually occur. Then, when do tornadoes occur every day of the year? It is seconded by diurnal patterns, so we'll able to know here where most tornadoes occur or what time do tornadoes occur. Then, tornadoes outbreak. So, in tornadoes outbreak, we will find out the occurrence of several tornadoes over a regions, and we will get to know also the classification because there are two classifications under this area, and we will get to know that as we go further, as we dig deeper to our discussion. Then the last one is the prediction and detection of tornadoes. So in this section, we will able to know a lot of factors that needs to be considered in order to predict or detect that one specific event or happening is an example of a tornado. All right. First, let's define what is seasonal pattern. So seasonal patterns occurs when a time series is affected by seasonal factors such as the time of the year or the day of the week. So seasonal patterns of tornadoes. So tornadoes develop in the spring and summer. So tornadoes also have occurred every day of the year. So let's take a look at the graph. So this graph entails the number of tornadoes in the US per month. So maybe you are wondering why I choose to example US instead of other countries such like Philippines. So it is because tornado, United States are country that most likely to experience tornadoes, while in Philippines, although tornadoes are not that stranger to us, but it is very uncommon lang here in Philippines. But there are recorded cases that tornadoes really exist, really happen here, pero dili siya ka violent or destructive compared to the ones that occurred in United States or in other countries. Okay, more of that. As we can see, no, in the figure, there are about 74% of tornadoes reported from March to July. Which is very evident naman that starting from the month of March to July, there is really a high percentage of reported tornadoes. So this month garnered a huge percentage of reported tornadoes. Okay, so in United States, the peak months of tornadoes is happened during the months of April, May, and June. On the other hand, the months of lowest activity occur in the months of December and January. So this figure indicates that tornado wind speed and this figure indicates tornado wind speed and it ranked according to the Fujita scale of tornado intensity. So we can conclude here that the occurrence of high intensity tornadoes are most common from March to July. So from March to July, we all know that this month is under the season of spring and summer. So in contrary, tornadoes are less common during winter because air mass boundaries are not as likely to be characterized by strong temperature and moisture contrast required to fuel powerful thunderstorms. So yes, tornadoes are less common during winter because generally the air during winter is much drier. Since there is usually cold or dry air than warm or moisture, then tornadoes are typically weaker and short-lived compared to the ones that occur during spring and summer. That is long track sila and very violent, and at the same time very destructive. So these are tornadoes no, that will cause huge damages and fatalities. Moving on to the next section, uh, we will dig deeper sa journal pattern. So the next section is the journal pattern. So in journal patterns, although tornadoes can occur at all times of the day, they are most frequent from mid-afternoon to early evening. So in central United States, where most tornadoes occur, so it is very, evident that in United States, it is where tornadoes most likely occur. So tornadoes frequency is highest between 5 and 6 p.m. Then the weak and strong tornadoes occur most frequently in the same hour also. Then the violent tornado occurrences peak an hour later than 5 to 6. Then the violent tornadoes nag-occur sila peak an hour between 6 and 7 p.m. So tornado occurrences peak in the late afternoon, no, to early evening, because there must be sufficient time for the sun strongly the heat ground and surface layer of the atmosphere, thus inducing and sustaining severe thunderstorm. So by this time, the sun has heated the ground and the atmosphere is enough to produce thunderstorm. That is why the peak of tornadoes occurrences is during late afternoon to early evening. Then, okay, so more of that, no. I just want also to assert that even though less common lang tornadoes during winter, no, because there is generally much drier air siya. So in order man good to for a tornado to occur, there should be factors that need to be considered. First, the ingredient for a tornado to occur is, first, it needs to have warm temperature. Also, it requires high humidity. No, so if tornadoes requires warm temperature, then during winter there is no warm temperature because the air is much more drier. That is why during winter, although there are I just want also to assert that there are reported cases that the tornadoes really do occur during winter, and it is reported by some meteorologists, no, forecasters, that tornadoes are more violent than the ones that occur during spring and summer. So, no, we cannot, although we can predict and detect the occurrences of tornado, but it happens any time of the year and any day of the year. So tornadoes outbreak. So in this section, no, tornado outbreak is the occurrence of several tornadoes over a region, usually due to thunderstorm embedded in the same synoptic scale weather system. So there are classifications. So outbreaks are classified according to the number of tornadoes reported. So we can classify that particular tornado is small if it ranged to 6 to 9 tornadoes lang. It is medium naman if the tornadoes range to 10 to 19. Then large if there are more than 20 tornadoes that occurred in an area. Okay, so outbreaks are also classified according to the area affected. The first one is local outbreaks. So, in local outbreaks, one or only a portion of one state is affected. In regional outbreaks, 2 or 3 states contain all or almost the tornado. So, in national outbreaks, tornadoes are reported in many states. Okay, prediction and detections of tornado. Why is it necessary for us to predict and detect tornadoes. When in fact, we can conclude that one specific happening is a tornado through our naked eye or through visuals. But why is it? Okay, so it is needed for us to predict and detect tornadoes because aside from it reduces the dissemination of false alarms, uh, it will also help us gain better understanding on what factors are need on what factors that are need to be considered in order to predict or detect that one uh, event or one specific event is an example of an existing tornado. Okay, the first step in predicting the likely occurrence of tornadoes involves identifying regions where conditions are favorable to the development of strong thunderstorms. So first, we have to identify. So meteorologists or forecasters have to identify the regions where there are high frequency or high possibility of strong thunderstorms that may develop. So essential ingredients for the occurrence of such storms are cool, dry air at middle levels in the troposphere superimposed over a layer of most conditionally unstable air near the surface. So we have here an structure of a thunderstorm. So this figure shows when the atmosphere becomes unstable enough to form large, powerful updrafts and downdrafts. So this updrafts and downdrafts can be indicated by the red and blue arrows. By the red and blue arrows. A towering thundercloud are built up. So what is thundercloud? So thundercloud, it is a cumulus cloud, no, and charged with electricity, and it produces thunder and light. So mag-build up daw siya of thundercloud when an atmosphere becomes unstable enough to form large, powerful updrafts and downdrafts. So it is understandable naman with a figure that indicated. So as times, the updrafts are strong enough to extend the top of the cloud into the troposphere. So the troposphere, it is an atmospheric boundary that separates troposphere to stratosphere. I will not limit my discussion to the textbook that is provided because perhaps I found a way better explanation to simplify this discussion, this section. So, in predicting the occurrences of tornadoes, we have clues that we can measure and look out for when we are trying to forecast a storm. So first, the rising air. So this is the first ingredient needed for a tornado to form.
Any storm is formed.
Any storm is
Any
formed
storm is
by
formed.
the
Any
when
storm is formed.
condensation occurs. So by the process of condensation, no, storms can be formed. So condensation releases heat, and heat becomes the energy that drives huge upward drafts of air. So the more condensation and the bigger the storm clouds grow, the more powerful these updrafts become. So the more condensation and the bigger the storm clouds grow, the more powerful those updrafts become. So as the air climbs, as the air climbs, it can change direction and start to move more quickly. And as the storm base, if there is a lot of moisture, a huge cloud base develops, giving tornadoes something to feed, feed up of later if it gets that far. So when all these things are in place, no, a vortex can develop, and it is enclosed by the storm and forming a wide tall tube of spinning air that gets pulled upwards. So we call this as mesocyclone. So mesocyclone, it is a rapidly rotating air mass within a thunderstorm that often rises tornadoes. So it often gives rise to a tornado. So with the
This
presence of
mesocyclone, forming what's known as
uh, there is possibility for the tornado to generate. Then the mesocyclone's lower part becomes tighter. Once it becomes tighter, and also increasing the speed of wind, this funnel of air moves down into that large moist cloud base at the bottom of the parent storm. So it sucks it in, tapos it turns it in and into a rotating. It turns into a rotating wall of cloud. Then the second tube of spinning cloud touches the ground. When the second tube of spinning cloud will touch the ground, then it becomes the tornado. Moving on to the next area, which is the detection of tornadoes. So, with the aid of modern observing systems, such as vertically pointing radars called wind, or we called it, or otherwise known as wind profilers, and the imaging systems on satellites that can measure the flow of water vapor through the Earth atmosphere. So forecasters can usually identify where condition will be favorable for tornado formation 1 to 7 hours in advance. So this information is transmitted to the public as a tornado watch. Diba? Because there is two kind of information that needs to be transmitted, no, in the publics, the tornado watch and tornado warnings. So a tornado warning is issued when a tornado has been spotted either visually or in weather radar. Okay, so once strong thunderstorm begin to form, local offices of the National Weather Service monitor their development using imagery from satellite sensors and most important from radar. So these are one of their um, instrument, no, mga sensoring instrument in order to detect the occurrence or the presence of tornadoes. This allow forecaster to follow the evolution of storms and to estimate their intensity. So through this instruments, no, mga sensoring instrument, it will help forecaster to follow the evolution or how the evolution of the storms and its intensity. So in the past, weather surveillance radars provided information only on the intensity of rainfall within the storm. So weather forecaster then had to include the onset of rotation within a storm from circumstantial evidence, such as when the precipitation began to curve around the outdrops to produce a hook echo. So it is an example of a hook echo. So a hook echo is a hook-shaped region of precipitation that flows out the main storm and wraps around the updraft. Such inferences were highly subjective and prone to false alarms or very short notice warnings. So today, no, like modern weather surveillance radars not only provide information on the intensity of a storm rainfall, but also utilize the Doppler principles to sense winds within the thunderstorm. So wind speeds are determined from radio waves reflected by raindrops and other particles carried along by the wind. So Doppler radars. So Doppler radars can measure, no. It will help in the measurement of the rotation of the updrafts and allow forecaster to watch the formation of a mesocyclone. So no, again, mesocyclone, it is a rotating air within a thunderstorm that will help in the generate and that will help a tornado to generate. So on Doppler radar, the presence of a well-organized mesocyclone is indicated by a small region of concentrated shear in the wind. So when we talk about wind shear, so it is the vertical motion of the air, no, with the same height. So on one side of the mesocyclone, the rotating winds flow towards the radar, and they move away. So in some cases, the formation of tornado core can be detected. So tornado core is a roughly cylindrical region of lower atmospheric pressure that is bounded by the maximum tangential winds. So the fastest winds circulating around the center. So tangential winds. So these are the fastest winds, no, that circulates around the center of the tornado. So the indication of intense concentrated rotation is called the tornado vortex signature. So although this area does not evolve into a tornado core, but these improvements have allowed forecasters to increase the warning times while reducing false alarms. Okay, so um, the structure of tornadoes are amazingly beautiful, especially when we will witness as we will witness it visually. So, but it is not uh, beautiful anymore when I your location no is where the path of the tornado of the said tornado. So not not beautiful anymore. So and because no one ever gets happy when everything is unfold by that so-called catastrophic event. So just like everything, however, tornadoes comes to an end also. So para ma-notice na to that tornadoes is ending na or start na siya mga maghunong. So if the temperature differences disappear and conditions grow more stable, then the moisture of the air dries up. And the storm will also loses its momentum. So that's it. That's the end of my discussion. So before I will leave, I will be calling the presence of Mr. Norsiron as he is the next reporter from Bicol. Mr. Sahiron, the floor is yours.